What's up, YouTube? It's your boy DR2727. Shout out to my Transformers collectors, 1/12 scale collectors, Marvel Legends collectors, Hot Toys collectors, whatever you collect, shout out to you. And this month's video for August 2020 is something a little different. It is a good and bad and ugly from Netflix Transformers Siege War for Cybertron show. And the reason we're doing this is because it dropped July 30th, so it gave me I got a chance to watch it between then and today. Today will be August the 1st. I got a chance to watch all 6 episodes, and I think it's only fitting that we talk about it, at least a good and a bad and an ugly. So this is a real big spoiler heavy video. So if you haven't seen it yet, don't watch it yet, but come back and check it out and give me your thoughts on it. And I am going to have another toy theme video for the month. That's my goal. So I pray that I can get that done. But this video here is a good and a bad and an ugly from the Transformers show. First and foremost, let's start with the good. I think the good is that we are getting Transformers content, right? Like outside of the movies, they do a rebooting, kind of start it up, but don't see it all the way through. I think that this is something that has been planned more thoroughly than kind of other iterations of recent Transformers. So I think that's a good thing. The fact that we are getting something that they took time to plan. I also think it's good that they are mixing some of the Transformers, all the kind of major, except for Beast Wars, all the major kind of mythology of Transformers. Like you got a lot of G1, you got some IDW twists, you did get some Beast Wars twists, but this is minor things like Stasis Lock, other things like that. You get some of those things and they kind of all hodgepodge it together. So like it was a homage. This is primarily a G1 cartoons. It's primarily a G1 cartoon, and you get an homage kind of to G1, which sprinkles in the other fiction and fandom, which I think is a really good thing. I think it's a good thing and I know I'm on the wrong side of the fence with this. I know everybody wants their Frank Welkers and Peter Cullers, but I'm glad they use new voice actors. Like instead of me getting caught up on who's portraying who or who's voicing who, I was able to focus on what was being said and kind of the whole dialogue, which is another good thing about it. I think that the concept is spot on to a degree. I think the wartime part of it, they did a great job on. Basically saying, hey, it's war this, it's war that, and treating it like a war. I thought that was really, really, really good. When you hear them talk, both sides, Decepticons and Autobots, when you hear them talk, you feel like you're in the heart of a war. And that's exactly what I wanted from this. If this is a war, make me feel like a war. And I thought that they did a good job of making me feel like I was in a war. Speaking of war, I think that the reason for the war, when Megatron and Optimus kind of talk, real heavily tied into the IDW storyline. Basically, in IDW and in this cartoon, Autobots are kind of the ruling class, and the Decepticons are born out of an ideology that, hey, basically the oppressor can only be oppressed for so long type concept. So I'm glad that they took that concept that was from IDW, that was all here Megatron, more than meets the eye. That whole how Megatron became Megatron concept took a key part of it and made it kind of the focal point of his rise to power. So like in the cartoon, in this Netflix cartoon, Megatron is kind of the oppressor who who said, I won't be oppressed no more, and gathered up all the legions. And now he's basically taking over Cybertron with the ones who've been oppressed. And there are clear and hard lines and clear divisions in this, which I really do like. It's like either you're Decepticon or you're Autobot. And they both talk about it. I've never helped the Decepticon. Autobots, I've never helped the Decepticon, I've never helped the Autobot. There are very clear and hard lines. And they both see the flaws in each other. Like Decepticons they think a lot of Autobots are elitist scum, whereas Autobots look down on Decepticons like they're just killing warmongers. So that dynamic of, hey, when you're on that side of the fence, you're 100% wrong. On my side of the fence, we're 100% right. No matter what side of the fence you're on, it's always interesting. And I think they did a really good job of kind of portraying that out throughout the series. You heard it from Megatron, you heard it from other minor characters. Like just to even be thought of associating with somebody from the other side was inconceivable, almost like segregation here in the United States. It kind of plays up on that whole storyline or whatever. So I thought that was really masterfully done. I also thought that one of my favorite things is that they did do some things outside. They did do some things outside of the box, like they reimagined some of the characters, specifically like they reimagined Jetfire, Bumblebee to a degree, Ratchet. They kind of reimagined those and stayed true to some. They stayed true to Starscream, stayed true to kind of the IDW version of Megatron. Pretty much stayed true to Impact. They gave Mirage a little more personality. They gave Mirage a little more personality, a little one. So they did right by some characters or whatever. They did do some things with some characters. I thought that was the characters they did put time into. I thought they did a really good job of, even if it was, keeping them status quo. Like I think they kind of switched the characters that needed to be switched, but kept some of the iconic characters where they need to be. Like the biggest character switch for me was Ratchet, and basically him being a weapons dealer, kind of, and going from a weapons dealer to being a healer, a mechanical, medical person, if you will. I thought that was pretty interesting because Ratchet is iconic for being just a doctor, and in this, he was the furthest thing from a doctor. So I did think that. I also thought that one of the more interesting concepts was kind of like, of course, they used the Matrix, but they also had something called the Cybertron protocols, which is basically another repository for Autobot information. And it was interesting how they presented it. Like, hey, those two components together were the completeness of Autobot power. And basically, Ultra Magnus held the Cybertron protocols, and Optimus held the Matrix as always. And so basically, how the story plays out, Magnus is a really important part at the beginning until they kill him. And basically, once they kill him, the protocols go to Bumblebee. And that's where it gets explained what the protocols are and why they're needed. And kind of, it gives a good definition to why Ultra Magnus is kind of needed in this whole world. And I do really like that. And I do like the fact that Ultra Magnus is loyal in this case, as always, but he's loyal for a reason in this iteration of Transformers. And I really do like that. The final thing I think that I would consider good is the fact that this is fiction tied to the toy. So like if you bought the Siege line, you got to see your characters pretty much front and center here. So I feel like if you invested money in that toy line, this was kind of the payoff. And I do think I would say if you get your money's worth from that, I do think that this was a really good investment. I think that the toys tied into the story very well. So let's move to the bads. I think one of the bads, or the first bad that stuck out to me, is that there were no new characters. The show kind of focused on maybe like the same 10 characters total, maybe not even that many, but it wasn't any new characters. One of the things Transformers does really well that nobody gives them credit for is that when they do introduce new characters, they really do a good job of introducing new characters, i.e. the Decepticon Justice Division, Windblade, like even Victorian. I think that this was an opportunity to come back and reinsert some of those characters, like especially a Windblade or Victorian. And they did do Impactor, who may be new to some, but if you're in the comics, he's been there. But I wish they would have kind of injected some new blood. Maybe have done it and had an exclusive toy that, hey, once the show dropped, hey, you can get this, lug wheel or something like that, the character name, and just make a new character where people can kind of, hey, this is something new, something different. I really think that was a missed opportunity for them. I didn't like the fact that like it was kind of the same category of bots. So like, and I know they probably did that to save money on production costs, but like you saw several Ironhide type figures, several Proud type figures. You get that. You understand that with the Seekers because that's how they move. You saw several Cog type figures. Well, I say figures. You saw several Cog type bots, Ironhead bots, whoever bots. So like you saw the same kind of category of bots, and that was a little off-putting, and it just seemed like they were cutting corners right there just to cut corners. I think they should have. I would have rather seen them do generic hunters or generic robots as opposed to just keep using the same 3D models over and over again. I fundamentally wish they would have went further back in time. Like it still remains to be seen what happens with the arc, because we left with assuming that the arc got blown up. But it seems like they kind of went to where episode 1 in Transformers More Than Meets the Eye did, just kind of a deeper dive into that point. And if it is, of course, that has yet to be seen. But if they did go there, if that is the point, I wish they would have went further back and kind of not the arc, kind of like maybe even pre-planning the arc, kind of sort of like just this war, we need this war. Because in here, basically the war, it becomes about the Allspark, and I'm fine with that. I just don't think that the Allspark should have tied into the arc. I think that's, in my mind, for Transformers, that's kind of something that happens maybe a millennia before the arc, or a significant time before the arc. So that was kind of one of the bads for me. I wish the episodes were a little longer. Like, they were normal 80s cartoons, 24, 23 minutes, but it seemed like when you do it for that short, you kind of zip through some things. And they didn't really miss that much, but I think it could have, like, they could have expounded on some more characters, gave some people more life. Because the characters they did give life to was cool, but they didn't give enough life to enough different types of characters. Wasn't enough transformations. Like, that's a real big one to me. Like, they ran a lot instead of transforming, physically transforming. Like, I'm trying to think, if you saw 10 transformations in the whole first season, the first chapter, whatever they want to call it, I would say that the over and under for number of transformations in those 6 episodes is under 8. I think it's under 8 or whatever. So this is a Transformers show about Transformers. Some of those things you could have shown transformation, because it's a lot of running around for bots. And instead of having them run around, just have them transform. That's still a gimmick in here. So I am one of those Transformers must transforms guys. And not having them transform enough is kind of a missed opportunity, especially when the toys have already been on the shelves for 3, 6, however many months. Like, I want to see for me, I would want to see the same toy I have in real life transform on the screen. And you didn't get that for a lot of the toys. And that was pretty much my bad. The ugly is, I don't have that many uglies. I'll say this. I think my biggest uglies, 2 uglies are kind of similar, but I'm gonna group them differently. The first ugly I have is visually. I didn't like that kind of cel shaded, kind of funky animation type stuff. Some shots were beautiful. Like, I think the Omega Supreme and I understand they're trying to have kind of a realistic take, but it was kind of realistic mixed with cel shading. And then just some angles, it just didn't do it for me. Looking at the show, I don't like. Watching the show, I love. If that makes sense, let me explain. I like watching the show, hearing the interaction, hearing the dialogue, hearing where the story is going. But when I look, I be like, this don't really match the show. This matches more so the toys. And this is one of those things that, hey, this is a 3-chapter commercial for buying toys, which is ironic because the toys have already been out. And I think that tied to that, I think one of the ugliest, which it can be a bad or ugly, depending on how you look at it, is that when we were growing up in G1, like, the toys were not as good as the animation. So it gave you something to kind of look forward to, kind of some imagination, kind of some real play, kind of some, oh, wow. Whereas the toys look exactly like animation, which I'm sure if you're into those type of toys, then it's like you're over the moon. But for somebody like me who's more of an MP collector, who is an MP collector, like, you just look and you be like, you just see all the flaws in the animation and the flaws in the toys, and we're like, it didn't make me want to go buy the toys necessarily. It just made me be like, why didn't they do a better version of the toy if this was just going to be a glorified toy commercial? So that kind of really bothered me. And then my other ugly is kind of the faces on the bots. Like, they made them too humanoid, more so with the lips and stuff, like the mouth and the lip and the chin line and stuff. Like, they tried to give them human faces on robotic figures, which never works. Just make them look robotic. I understand you want to have a mouth and a nose. You need a mouth. Maybe not a nose, but a nose does make them look more relatable. But, like, Megatron's lips look like he paid for surgery, Elita ones. Like, all of the characters with lips, they don't look real. So I think that's really ugly. And that's it. Those are pretty much my good, my bad, my uglies. I give away some awards to end off, and I give final thoughts and a letter grade. So I think the MVP is kind of hard to go against Prime, but it's really Bumblebee. I mean, a lot of this show is about the development of Bumblebee from kind of a loner, do things on his own, to a team player. And hey, he started not being an Autobot. And he still loved not being an Autobot, but he started to grasp the Autobot principles, and he started to believe more in the Autobot principles than the, hey, I'm just in it for myself type of guy. It's hard to go against Prime, but I do think Bumblebee is kind of the MVP of this first season. I would say the least valuable person is Shockwave. Like, he wasn't like, they kind of gave him some of them characteristics, the scientific characteristics, but it was kind of a combination of what you saw in Transformers Prime, with him being super sciencey and logical, and kind of G1 where he kind of bumbled sometimes. Like, that's kind of Shockwave. But his character was cool, but he was probably my least favorite character in the show. Some of my favorites, I would say, like, is Jetfire. I think that this story was primarily about Bumblebee, Megatron, and Jetfire. If you saw the first chapter, I think those are the three kind of main characters. And it's hard not to say Prime isn't the main character, but what you get with Prime is what you always get with Prime, is that he is kind of he's just Optimus Prime, and that doesn't change. So, but with Jetfire, who is this ultra super committed Decepticon with honor, who, goes on that path, who's the commander of the Seekers, who is a formidable warrior in his own right, to go from what he was, being, the Seeker commander, to being, hey, I'll be an Autobot, and how he reluctantly got there. Like, it wasn't like just a light switch. It was kind of a slow burn where it's like, I saw one thing I didn't like. I saw two things I didn't like. I saw four things I didn't like. Oh, this is a big thing. Am I really on the right side here? Maybe I'm not on the right side, but I really, I'm not sure. Like, I still ideologically think that this is the right way to go, but how we're going about it is the wrong way. So I think that was kind of interesting with Jetfire, even though he becomes an Autobot at the end. It's not how you would think he became an Autobot. Like, it was more of a slow burn than it has been in other fiction. So I thought that was, one of the good things about him, is that him and Bumblebee did develop over time, and that's why they both are my MVP, and Jetfire is my favorite. Most underrated was Alita 1. I thought that she brought something to the team. Like, during war, you question yourself, you question leadership and stuff like that. And her questioning Prime is kind of what you think of in wartime. Just like Jetfire is a character you think about in wartime. You think of, hey, I'm on the right side. Hey, are we doing the right thing? That's one way, and that's what Jetfire, that was what his character was about. But Alita 1 was more so, hey, I know I'm doing the right thing, and I know I'm doing the right thing for the right reasons, but hey, is our leader leading us in the right direction? I know he means well, but he could mean well leading us in the wrong direction. And, to openly question him, and to openly question that was a good role, because, people very rarely question Optimus. Like, especially that Optimus where he was established as kind of a leader already. People just pretty much look at Optimus Prime as, perfect, flawless, whatever. Where she was like, I'm not so sure sometimes about your Prime. Like, some of your greatest strengths are also your greatest weaknesses. So, I thought she was a very underrated character. I really did like her character. But all in all, I love the show. Like I say, I give the show a B plus. I think I'll give it a B plus. I think my biggest problem, like I said, was the visual. I liked a lot of the stuff about it. So I hope they keep going down this, hey, we're in the military, we really are on the war route, and I can't wait to see what's happening next. Thank you guys. I know this ran a little long, so apologies. Thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Again, I hope you're in on it. We need all Transformers fans watching this. And that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Remember to stay safe, stay healthy, whatever it takes for you to be mentally and physically healthy. Please do that. If you're going outside, wear a mask and gloves or whatever your local health authorities do, and we'll beat COVID together. Thanks again.